What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the Trooper Transmission. And today we got my man Michael Carballo in the house. Michael, how we doing, man?
Doing great.
Doing great. Come here to talk about all things Troopers, Fit Nerd Academy, and man, just the ultimate dad right here on the other side of the camera of me. And so fill us in, fill me in. What was going on 7, 8 months ago? What inspired you to join Fit Nerd Academy?
What really inspired me at that point in time was just my overall health was not where I really wanted it to be. I was behind on um my military expectations, and I was falling behind. And also, after meeting with doctors, I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, all things that were pointing to negative outcomes, especially having a parent who suffered from a heart attack at the age of only 45 was definitely an eye opener for me. And after seeing where my health was, where my weight was sitting, and me falling behind on my standards for the army, I knew I had to make a change. And I saw your program through Instagram, and I'm a huge Star Wars fanatic. I love it. I've been a fan since I was a kid, so to be able to do something that I really want to do and also have the motivation of my favorite characters growing up with Anakin and Count Dooku and all of the troopers. I thought it was a lot of fun to be able to experience that, and kind of join a community that has that same mentality and mindset. So that was really what got me into it, and I'm really happy that I chose to go down this path.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll get into all the things that have helped you be successful in a second. I'm curious, you obviously, we have a lot of things in common. I'm a dude who wears a clone trooper helmet on the internet. Was there any like concerns that you had with it being either remote or it being something that was legit? Like, did that ever cross your mind?
So I think the biggest concern for me was the flexibility with workouts, and then also um, I had a powerlifting coach at one point where I did coaching online, and I think the lack of mobility of the workouts of being like, hey, these are my issues. I can't do X, Y, and Z because this is the machinery I have, or this is the back issue that I'm dealing with. Really limited me with my previous trainer, and that was my fear with getting an online trainer again. So that was something coming into this I was a little hesitant with, but I honestly, that definitely left that fear left me on week one when I got to learn about the program and started doing the workouts. And I experienced that for any issues I had with any lifts, I could be able to reach out with you, and we would come up with something that was a really awesome game plan that we had overall. And having the flexibility to move workouts around and not have to be on such a rigorous structure was really good, and not having also to spend 2 to 3 hours in the gym, because I am pretty sure my wife really appreciates that one.
Yeah, definitely. Don't in the gym 2 to 3 hours. So you hit the ground running. You've crushed the first few months. What are some of the things that you've learned, perspectives that have maybe changed, or things you just simply needed to be reminded of, right? Because you've got experience in the gym. What are some of those things that stood out to you?
One of the things I really had a hard time with, and I think it's a lot of this has to do with social media too, with today, is I wasn't where I was at one point. At one point, I was just probably 100 pounds away from the 1,000 pound club with my three major lifts, and to be back in the gym on my first week and not be able to hit any of those weights, it is definitely frustrating. But I've learned to accept that, you know, I gotta gain in order to get to back to that point. Even if I wanted to, it's gonna take progress. It's gonna take hard work, and it's gonna just take time in getting into the gym. The same goes for me running. I used to be able to run a 7 minute mile for 7 to 10 miles at a time. I'm not there, but I've made progress and I've gotten my times down. And with that, I think I am starting to see progress. I'm starting to see that forward motivation. It's just motivating me to, you know, continue with consistency in the gym and being able to be consistent with tracking my food and being consistent with making sure I'm taking the right supplementation. Um, I definitely I definitely am nervous around, people. There's a lot of people that, I go to the gym and are definitely in great shape, and I want to be there. But I realize that everybody started somewhere. Inevitably they look like me at one point, and I just have to, gradually get there eventually. And it's a time consuming process that can take a year to get to, but I'm happy with the results I've gotten so far. And looking from the picture I took earlier this week to the first picture I took back in November or October, it's a completely different person almost. So it's really encouraging, and I think that seeing the progress in the numbers and in the photos and in my weight loss has been absolutely huge to me.
Yeah, absolutely. To that point, from a results standpoint, what have been some of the biggest wins that you've seen that, are measurable or even intangible things that are more just qualitative?
Um, I'm super happy, at least in the lifting department. I'm really happy that I've been able to maintain my bench to over my body weight. I think that was one thing that I struggled with growing up, was I was awful at bench. And to be able to bench anywhere between 10 to 20 pounds over my body weight was actually really nice to see, and that I am not losing that, because as much as it's not really a big deal to me, it was, because it was, one of those things that I struggled with growing up as a kid. Another big win for me is I went from having to be taped every drill, because of the fact that I was over height and weight and taping policy, to now I was no longer having to worry about tape, because I passed the tape the first time, and now I don't have to be on the month to month basis, to now I don't even have to worry about being taped at all, because as soon as I step on the scale, I'm within the range that I need to be. So that was a really huge win, because I retire in 6 months now, and I now don't have to worry about height and weight for the next 6 months, because it's just not a flag that's going to be on my record, and it also lets me leave the army with a nice clean record and bill of health.
Dude, that's awesome. Just to have that peace of mind for 6 months. It's almost like when you know you're going to get an A in school because you
Yeah,
passed all your tests and they're like, yeah, finals, I've already got an A, so I'm not worried. And
exactly.
yeah, and like it's so impressive, man, to be down over 20 pounds and still seeing your bench stay where it's at. Like that's a win-win anytime you can maintain strength and, see body composition changes. So for you, what would you say your three keys to success are? Maybe you're coaching your younger self, a younger brother, or someone watching this who, maybe was in your shoes where you were a year ago. Like what would be your three keys to success, three things to focus on?
Um, my first one would be consistency. If you're not consistent, you definitely won't see the progress. I've known this for a long time now, and I think that it's tough to, again, with today, is you're not as consistent as you want to be, because there's so many different people telling you so many different things. But being able to stick to a plan and do it, and go to the gym. I know I go to the gym 4 days a week. I know I have to run 2 to 3 days, and being able to do it and get through it and understand that, yeah, it's not always at the best time, and it's not always the best thing you want to be doing, but having that consistency and discipline is definitely beneficial in the long run. Number two is, you know you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your loved ones. I do it for my family. At the end of the day, I have my son and my wife to worry about, and at the end of the day, well, I'm not, really worried about looking, like a absolute beefed up muscle head. My health is very important to me, and being able to be there for them. So, I go to the gym for them so that way I can be here as long as physically possible for them. And the last one is to enjoy life. I think what stressed me out at the beginning of starting this journey was I was super fixated on making sure I tracked every calorie and tracking everything. And while that is very important to the consistency of getting there, um, to go out and enjoy a moment and not track it because you don't know how to track a restaurant's meal all the time. I think that's important. Me and my wife have gone out on a few occasions where I wouldn't track the meal because I just wanted to sit there and enjoy it. I didn't want to have to worry about what I was eating and how many calories and how much carbs, and I wasn't worried about that. I was just worried about enjoying the moment. And then as soon as that day was over and that night was over, I would come back in the morning and right back to work. And that's where that consistency, but having a little bit of fun uh, as well, allows you to go hand in hand because everybody does need a break sometime from time to time. And having a date night, there's nothing wrong with it. So I think that with consistency, you do have to have a little bit of a leeway to have some fun and, break away. Because if you don't, you're just going to burn yourself out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, every bow needs to be pulled back, every gun needs to be reloaded. And so sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is sit down, have dinner with your wife, and not worry about anything. Because if the stress makes things worse, then is it really that kind of recharge that you want to be spending time? So, and to that point, you mentioned, I love that you mentioned the consistency first because the consistency gives you the freedom to be able to go and do that, right? Like if you're watching this
Right.
and restaurant meals are really hard for you to track, okay, well, maybe you missed that question on a test, but you got 20 other ones that you can get right for breakfast and lunch the other, 6 days plus the other dinners that you do control. So, right. So control, you can control so that you can have that freedom. Discipline equals freedom is kind of a popular saying, and you really exemplify that in what you do. So I'm glad that you said that.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story and putting in the work and just being an awesome dude overall. Can't wait to continue to watch your career. And 6 months from now, we'll wave you off to retirement and an awesome rest of the year, man.